Hello again and welcome to the Tobago House of Assembly's Division of Education, Innovation and Energy's e-learning program. I am your facilitator for English CSEC, English A, and my name is Kimarie Richardson Thomas. Today we're going to be looking at expository writing, and we look at a lesson that has been prepared by Cherise Taylor. This aspect of expository writing will focus on the formal letter. Two types of complaint letters. We have the personal and the professional. The personal complaint, this is at the individual level. It's pertaining to your individual grievance. So you can write a personal letter of complaint talking about what it is you experience and the dissatisfaction or displeasure that you've had with the product or service. On the other hand, you can have a professional letter of complaint. This is where you're writing on behalf of the organization. On behalf of an organization pertaining to the issues that are affecting the organization as a whole. So if you are the president of the village council and there's a situation that's taking place in your village that is very discomforting or uncomfortable for the members in the community, you can write on behalf of the village council. And this is where you have to ensure you sign your letter with your designated role. So let's take a look at a type of question that students may get if they're looking at a letter of complaint. A possible prompt can look something like this. Write a letter to Mr. Hosford Benjamin, manager of Oxford Publishing House, London, complaining that the books sent by them were not those you had ordered. Ask for replacement. This is a prompt that you can get, and what I'd like to advise you to do, we're going to go back to the structure we looked at before. This is the kind of structure that you want to have if you're writing that letter of complaint. Again, you have your sender's address, who is sending the letter. So who is writing the letter? Who is writing? Then we get to the recipient, and we're recapping this part here. Who is it going to? Who is the receiver? So who is it going to? This information comes here. And again, we have to remember what it is we spoke about before. Here, skip a line. Nice. So you skipped a line between who is writing it, who it's going to, and then we come here again, skip a line. And you work on building the structure for this prompt here that you were given. Write a letter to Mr. Hosford Benjamin, manager of Oxford Publishing House in London, complaining that the books sent by them were not those you had ordered. I want you to focus on structuring and putting in the content that you need. You have your salutation or your greeting. Dear sir, madam. You want to make sure you have those bits of information, and then you have the body of your essay. And make sure that the body of the essay, again, we want it to be meaty, we want to feed it, structure it so that you have at least 3 or 4 paragraphs before you get to your complimentary close. The formal letter of apology is another type of formal letter that you can use. This letter is written simply to apologize to someone for a mistake. It's a means to mend a broken or troubled relationship between two people or two organizations. Sometimes apologizing in person may not be easy. You may not be able to access the person and then there are times there may be inflated egos, and it's difficult to watch someone in their face and say, I'm sorry. But this is where a written apology can break the ice between the two parties and reestablish the relationship. Sometimes we don't have apt communication skills to apologize. Sometimes. It may be difficult to apologize face to face. And here too, letters can act as a mediator between two offended parties. So the elements of a good apology letter. You want in your apology to say you are sorry. You're not going to say, I am sorry, but. And let me explain. If you include this word but, and I remember my grandmother saying this to me, I remember my mother saying it to me, my father saying it to me. If you put but in, you have butted out the apology. It means that you're sorry, but you're not sorry. And that is what but does. It negates the apology. It makes this null and void. So do not begin to say, I'm sorry, or I'd like to apologize, but it was so-and-so's fault. No. When you're writing an apology letter, straight to the point. Say you are sorry, full stop. Own the mistake. You're apologizing for something. Take full responsibility for it, especially for your part in the error, your part in what went wrong. Own the mistake. You also want to describe what happened. Don't just say, or rather, do not simply say, I am sorry, I hope you accept my apology, full stop. You need to articulate to the person receiving the letter exactly what it is you are apologizing for. Explain what happened. Explain what it is you did that warrants an apology. And this is important too, because sometimes you're apologizing for something and the person you're apologizing to has absolutely no clue that something had gone wrong. Have a plan. Have a plan in place. What it is you're apologizing for, how you're going to structure this apology. You want to be very clear on it, and you want to admit you were wrong. Admit that you made an error. Again, it goes back to what we said at the top. Do not put in the but. You want to own your mistake. So admit that you were wrong and end by asking for forgiveness. You want to end on a note that says that you hope that your apology would be accepted and that you can be forgiven. So ask for forgiveness. So let's see how this works. Let's take some practice. We want to look at some paper 1 applications for our formal letters. The paper 1 for our multiple choice, you're going to find that in an area where we can see expository writing, this would occur more specifically in our comprehension. And in the comprehension, you may get instructions that indicate to you, and our instructions are here. Read the letter carefully, then answer the questions that follow. And in a multiple choice section in our paper 1, we can get something like this. We have this formal letter, and it's a letter of apology that can come in your exam, especially in your paper 1, in the form of a comprehension. All of your comprehension elements will feature a particular genre of writing, a particular type of writing. So all of the skills that you're learning for your paper 2, those elements are still required for your paper 1 so that you can have better understanding. So we have here our letter. And our letter starts off with the sender's address and date. So we have our sender's address, and date. Then again, we skip a line. We spoke about it before. You're seeing it here. Skip a line. We skip a line and we get to the receiver, our recipient. You want to make sure that you have who it is going to. And then again, they skip a line. We skip a line right here. We put that part, you skip a line, and you get to your greeting, your salutation. This is what is evident. I want you to be aware of what is actually evident in the one that you're presented with, because it's following the same structure, the same organizational structure that we spoke about when you're writing it. So, dear Mr. Jacobs, the unlawful misappropriation of cash, which was entrusted to me, has created an uneasy working environment for which I'm extremely embarrassed. It was unpardonable to take the company's money for personal use when I was entrusted with the responsibility for securing it. My actions were both reprehensible and immoral. Initially, I thought I would be able to reimburse the amount of money taken before the audit took place. However, due to a surprise audit, my intentions never came to fruition. Contrary to general perception, my intentions were not unconscionable. I was experiencing terrible challenges with meeting my mortgage payments and could not think of another way to meet my financial commitments. Despite the empathy expressed by fellow employees and your good self, I am willing to accept the consequences of my actions and would abide by any decision made by the company. I am humbly requesting that this incident not be reported to the police or local media. Until this incident, my work ethic, character, and integrity has been unblemished. If this incident is publicized, it would be difficult to secure another form of employment. I apologize once again for my unethical behavior, and I promise to return the money taken as soon as possible. Sincerely, Christine Scott. We are seeing here the body of the letter. And the body starts off by indicating the purpose of the letter. The second paragraph explains what happened. We said it's not enough just to say you're sorry. You need to explain, articulate what happened, what it is you're apologizing for. When this has been done, you're saying that the writer then asked for forgiveness. Just now. They're requesting forgiveness. So there's a request for forgiveness. Forgiveness. And then we get to our complementary clues. Sincerely, Christine Scott. We are seeing all of the structures, all of the elements that you're requested or you're required to put into your formal letter, and in this case, apology. So after you've read it, let's take a look at some questions that you can be asked in a comprehension setting for multiple choice. This letter can be classified as A, a thank you letter, B, letter of apology, C, referral letter, or D, letter of complaint. Now, even when we look back at it and we know getting into this, we saw that this was a particular kind of letter. Someone is presenting a situation, something that they did that may have aggrieved individuals, and they're apologizing. But you pay attention to the language. I apologize once again. The person uses the language that says, I am sorry. Then we have, so if we look at the question and our options, this letter can be classified as, and it's very clear that this is an example of a letter of apology. You have to pay attention. If you look again, look at the vocabulary. The person says as well here, I am willing to accept the consequences. And you're seeing language that you're going to associate with someone being sorry and being apologetic. The second question asks, which of the following misdemeanors was not committed by the employee? Now let me make a point here. This first question actually requires you to look at the letter and pull out vocabulary. Vocabulary and language is what would direct you to the answer here. The second question, which of the following misdemeanors was not committed by the employee? This one requires going back to the passage and looking for all of the information that you're presented with. So it says, which of the following misdemeanors was not committed by the employee? She intentionally entrapped her manager. She created an uneasy working environment. She betrayed the individuals whose money she was entrusted to secure, or she accessed the company's cash for personal use. So let's take a look. When we go through this passage, we are able to see that when we look, the first option was that she intentionally entrapped her manager. So we looked through, and when we read it through, I cannot recall us coming to one of those. But if we look, did we see that she created an uneasy working environment? And she says it here, has created an uneasy working environment. So that was stated. She betrayed the individuals whose money she was entrusted to secure. And she says that. So she was entrusted with the responsibility of securing it. Then she speaks about the question asked, or the response is, she betrayed, or she accessed the company's cash for personal use. And she says it here. She had intended to use the money. Her intention was to use the money for her mortgage, my mortgage payment. She thought she would have been able to reimburse the amount of money taken, so that she used the money for personal use. When we look back here, we realize that all of these, so she committed this one, she committed this one, she also accessed the company's cash for personal use, but she did not do this. So A is our answer. A comprehension skill that we have to pay attention to is when you're going to extract the information straight out of the passage you're presented with. The employee was caught due to which of the following activities? When we review our passage, one of the things that you're going to see, and let's look at the options. Was it a spot check by the security guard? Was it an unexpected audit? Was it a guilty conscience or an observant co-worker? We go back to the passage. And our passage actually says that due to a surprise audit, her intentions never came to fruition. There was a surprise audit. Information taken directly out of the passage. So there was an unexpected or a surprise audit. Number 4 says, based on the context of the letter, which word could be used to replace unconscionable? This is a vocabulary type of question. And what it is, I would advise you, even as you're looking at this, if you do not know the meaning of the word unconscionable, look it up now. I'm not giving you the answer to this one. This one you can find out. Look up the meaning of the word unconscionable and determine which of these 4 words, thoughtless, foolish, unethical, irrational. Which of the four is a synonym for unconscionable? Let's look at final two. The tone of the writer could be described as. Now, the answer to this, you're not going to be able to go into the passage and just pull it out. What you have to do is pay attention to the vocabulary. The vocabulary used by the writer will help you to understand the tone used by the writer. And more specifically, once you've been able to identify that this is a letter of apology, you know that the tone is an apologetic tone. The writer wants to indicate that they're sorry. Which of these words would indicate apology or an apologetic tone? This is another vocabulary type of question, and I want you to see if you can find which of these four words, which of these four would indicate an apologetic tone. So I'm not giving you this one either. Check your dictionary. Which of these four words, self-righteous, remorseful, callous, unrepentant, which of them speaks of an apologetic tone? And the last one that we're looking at here, why did the employee request that the incident not be reported to the police or the local media? In the passage, she actually made a case for this. She said, I am humbly requesting that this incident not be reported to the police, and we're looking at the last paragraph. I'm humbly requesting that this incident not be reported to the police or local media. Until this incident, my work ethic, character, and integrity has been unblemished. If this incident is publicized, it would be difficult to secure another form of employment. It would be difficult to secure another form of employment. So why is it she requested that it not be reported to the police? A, says she did not want her husband to find out. B, she was too embarrassed by the situation. C, the publicity would make her famous. Or D, she did not want the publicity to prevent her from gaining future employment. And when we go through the passage, we are seeing where she did indicate that if it is publicized, it would be difficult for her to secure another form of employment. And our answer, therefore, would be D. These are some types of examples that you can get for your paper one, and you want to approach your paper one very logically, very clearly, understanding what it is you're being asked to do. So as we come to the end of today's session, you would have been able to define and explain different forms of expository writing, to explain the components of a formal letter, respond to questions based on a formal letter, and construct a formal letter based on a prompt. I want to say thank you for joining me today. Our next session, we're going to continue looking at expository writing, but we're going to focus on the email. So thank you again for joining us as we bring to a close this session of the Tobago House of Assembly Division of Education, Innovation and Energy e-learning program.